If I'm gonna talk about my all-time favorite game, I have to go back a few years. Not as far as when a certain plumber revolutionized gaming history, nor to when the oh-so-famous elf boy saw the first light of the third dimension. I have to go back to 2003. That was the year when Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic was released. But almost 1 year would go by before I actually played it. I had heard of the high ratings, the rumors, the whispers. Friends of mine talked about it, especially about having multiple choices within the game, that you could actually affect how the story unfolded. Unfortunately though, technical difficulties delayed my access to the game. The game required a whopping 1 GHz of processing power, 256 megabytes of RAM, and then 32 megabytes of RAM on the graphics card, and that was the minimum requirements. But a beautiful day, late in 2004, my journey into what would eventually change how I viewed games began. After a not so complicated character build, the famous yellow Star Wars crawl creeps up. Darth Malak, the last surviving apprentice of the Dark Lord Revan, has waged war on the entire galaxy. Disoriented, you wake up on a ship under attack. You don't know anything about why you're here or why the ship's being attacked, and you have no idea about who you are.
We've been ambushed by a Sith battle fleet.
Everything you know is what the first person you meet tells you, and suddenly, the first choice is put before you. Should you help Bastila or save yourself? The implication of this choice is not huge, and rightly so. This game was one of the first big games who utilized this method to carry the story onwards. And there were probably some limitations both in the creativity and in the technical development in how much you could actually affect the story and how little nuances there were in the choices you had to make. You were either good or evil. The fighting mechanics in the game are somewhat polarizing. People loved it and hated it. And at times it is kinda rigid with a few bugs here and there, but for my part, I really like it. You play in the third person, and the actual battles are a combination between real-time and turn-based. You control where your character is located if you want to stay in range, distance, or melee, but the fight moves or skills are turn-based, with 3 options: a ranged or melee skill, a force ability, and a grenade type. There's a max limit of 4 actions at a time, which are then executed at regular intervals. You can also pause anytime you want in the fight, giving yourself some time to think and a strategic overlook. But in addition to this, you have 2 followers with you at all times. You also get to pick who you want as a follower, but the followers aren't there just to look good, they help you with the battles. But if you wish, you can also control them. That means that you can pick followers that complement your character with skills you don't have, which again gives you more strategic choices in the battles. In the character screen in-game, you'll see an axis that moves from blue to red. This axis is supposed to indicate where you are in the landscape of good and evil. So in a funny way, this game just boxes you in. A majority of evil choices brings you further down towards the red part of the axis, and as we all know, red is an evil color. But good choices, they'll lead you on a path towards the beautiful and peaceful blue color. Surprisingly though, there is a middle ground in the game, a gray zone in the axis. But you don't get to the gray zone by making neutral choices. No. To stay in the gray zone, you have to be both good and evil. So even though one could believe that the gray zone is like a balance between good and evil, it doesn't appear to work like that here. Nope, the gray zone is reserved for the capricious, the unpredictable, the Lokis, those who would befriend you at one moment and kill you in the next. But even though the moral landscape in Knights of the Old Republic is somewhat reduced from reality, there's something there that draws you in, because you're still gonna have to choose. You're forced to choose, either or. The game throws you into a relatively complex story. And from the get-go, you feel there's a story behind your character. Something's lurking, a mystery.
That smack to your head did more damage than I thought. Bastila's a Jedi. She was with the strike team that killed Darth Revan, Malak's Sith Master. Everything I know about Malak is pretty much common knowledge. He escaped the trap that killed Darth Revan, his Sith Master. With Revan's death, Malak became the new Dark Lord.
A majority of the game is spent in conversation with your followers, and over the course of the game, several characters join you. Some voluntarily, some not. But every one of them have their own story. They all have a distinct feature, and none of them are uninteresting. Even the droids display charisma and personality, one of whom only makes beeping noises. And if you want, you can spend hours talking with them, and the more you do, the closer you get to them, and the more they reveal of their stories. But your choices in the game also affect how much each of them wants to share with you, and how they react depends on where they themselves lie within the blue and red moral axis. In the conversations with Bastila and Karth, just 30 minutes into the game, you start to notice that they're hiding something from you. As I mentioned before, everything you know is predicated on what everyone else tells you. Your character has forgotten everything, and the game gives you little to no possibility to explore your own history. Not right away, at least. It's especially Karth who displays a negative attitude towards you from the start. You can sense that he's not telling you everything he knows, and you just have to contend with it. The mystery of your identity hovers as a backdrop along the continual unfolding of the story. You visit different planets, and every planet has a story mission. The setup for every mission is rather linear. Find the star maps. It's up to you how much time and energy you want to invest in the people you meet and the places you go, though there are some conversations you just can't get past. Now, there's no hiding the fact that your character has certain powers that Bastila wants to help you attain. The Jedi Masters at Tatooine are seemingly skeptical to let you train to become a Jedi. You're too old and probably too strong in the Force, but eventually they concede, and you end up as Bastila's Padawan. After a fair amount of hours into the game, you've become a Jedi. You've found the different star maps, and you've made choices which have either resulted in you looking like a person with a severe case of too little sun, or you have a pretty nice tan. After all of this, the road inevitably crosses between you and the evil Darth Malak. It's in this fateful battle that your identity is finally revealed. Right in the heat of the battle, Darth Malak starts talking to you, but he talks as if he knows who you are, or rather, who you used to be. Suddenly, the missing piece of the puzzle falls into place. A cutscene comes where you recollect conversations with Bastila, Karth, and the Jedi Masters. Now, all the subtle hints they've dropped since day one become clear. You are the Dark Lord Revan. Oh my god. You're kidding, right? Like, how is this even possible? This is probably one of the greatest plot twists in a game ever. At this point in time, you're so immersed in the game, you just have to let go of everything just to get a grasp of what's happening. No one saw it coming. We were speechless. But the game isn't over yet. You still have hours left. But even though the last boss is kind of hard and you feel great when you finish him off, and even how good the ending of the game actually is, it doesn't top that mind-blowing reveal of your identity. Luckily though, it doesn't make the ending bad. It just speaks to how intense it was, finding it out for the first time you played it. I mean, you were the ultimate bad guy all along.
I knew you knew I knew all along, all along, all along.
It takes a while before the hype calms down, and you'd probably think that this reveal is the only thing that makes this game into what it is. But then you'd be sorely mistaken. As As I said, you were already immersed in the story at the time of the reveal. You were invested. And the reason for that is you've been given the possibility to explore and live within a universe which is so tangible, so filthy, and so real. With well-built and exciting planets, you've been on a journey to find ancient star maps, you've made friends, you've been able to help or cheat people on the way, you've gone from apprentice to building your own lightsaber to becoming a Padawan and eventually a Sith Lord or a Jedi Master. You've explored the tombs of the great Sith Lords on Korriban. You've traveled through the Dune Sea on Tatooine. You fought a freaking Rancor. And let's not forget that the ship you use during your travels is eerily familiar to the Millennium Falcon. You've been allowed to, in a way, touch and feel the rich Star Wars mythology which up until this game only existed in our imagination from watching the movies. And as if that wasn't enough, Jeremy Soule managed to create a soundtrack which both imitated and continued the legacy of John Williams. It's an adventurous mix of old and new, contributing to maintaining a continuous feeling of nostalgia and mysticism. There weren't a lot of games at this time which had given us a tangible experience of George Lucas's world. And yes, the game is full of bugs. The gameplay is far from optimal, at least compared to today's standards. But they're minuscule issues when looking at the bigger picture. And Knights of the Old Republic is just that. A big picture, a grand painting, previously undefined in your imagination, now turned into reality. Hi there, I'm Thomas. I like to create videos about whatever interests me. I don't do it as often as I want to, but hopefully that will change. But if you enjoy my videos, please leave a like, subscribe to my channel, and if you really enjoy my videos, consider becoming a patron. Yeah. Thank you.